Welcome to Dentist in the Know, folks, the podcast where dentistry meets real talk, real news, and just the right amount of sarcasm. We're pulling back the curtain on the industry, talking to the experts, the innovators, and the everyday clinicians who are out there doing the work. No fluff, no filter, and definitely no sales pitches disguised as education. If it's happening in dentistry, from clinical breakthroughs to regulatory curveballs to the latest scandal at the ADA, we're probably already talking about it. And yes, we're bringing the receipts. So whether you're a seasoned doc, a curious consumer, a rep, a researcher, or just here for the drama, welcome to the show. Because around here, we're not just in the loop, we're in the know. Welcome to Dentist in the Know, folks. I am Dr. Chad Duplantis, and I stole that intro from Dr. Jeff Horowitz for the first time ever. It felt really, really good because, we started this thing together and, he's always done the intro. But tonight, I'm going to make him close the show, which he's very uncomfortable doing because he's not a good closer. Anyhow, I am Dr. Chad Duplantis. As I just said, I'm here with my two besties, Dr. Jennifer Bell and Dr. Jeff Horowitz. And it's great to have you all here with us on this podcast tonight. We have a great show tonight. How are y'all doing?
Jennifer?
Great. I've moved to Seattle, apparently, so I'm good.
Are you sleepless?
No, I'm very rainy.
So why did you move there?
Well, I didn't actually, but one might argue
I know
teleported.
you didn't, but why theoretically?
Yeah. Because it's, I think, rained for the last 7 days.
8 days,
gotcha. 9 days now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Every day. Like
Every
thunder
day.
is a normal background noise in the office.
Which is weird in the South. I mean, like we're used to a late afternoon storm, but I've had multiple morning storms, which is very unusual. It's been raining like torrential. We've had flooding. It's a weird, usually we're dry. We're going through everybody's bitching about there being no water, and quite the opposite, actually. Quite the opposite. So it's weird.
No, we're feeling the same thing down here. And it's starting to flood, like the rivers are high. Like if God forbid a tropical storm comes through now,
which may be happening,
even if it's not a direct hit, I am really worried about what may happen. Kind of like what they're seeing in Georgia and some of the other areas in the country right now. But can I bitch for a minute? Can I bitch for a minute?
Only if I can bitch for 5.
Can I bitch? Can I please bitch?
Yeah,
can I please bitch?
Bitch a little bit.
So no, how many weeks have I been complaining to you guys about, schedule a patient for an appliance check.
Yep.
Don't bring the appliance.
You got to bring the appliance.
Right. Here's a piece of hardware that we have made for you. And on the appointment, it says, please bring any pieces. It doesn't say it like that, but please bring any pieces of hardware we have made for you, or you have made in the past, or you have had made in the past. Please bring those to your appointment so we can evaluate that at all appointments. It even says it on our reminders. Like we don't miss any trick on this thing. And I am just amazed at how many people come and say, oh, I didn't bring it. Well, today, I've been complaining about the sleep appliances because, that it happened at least, 2 or 3 times each week of the last couple of weeks where people didn't bring it with them. And today we had a retainer check for a patient who just got out of ortho. And guess what?
No
How'd
appliance.
that go?
Not wearing the retainer, didn't bring it. And thought it would still be a good idea to show up to the appointment.
So aces, going aces.
I mean, I know I shouldn't complain about patients, but I don't get it. Like if somebody if somebody said after fixing my car, hey, I want to see how the car is doing, come back in 3 months. Let's look at it, make sure everything looks good. I wouldn't show up and say, I forgot the car.
I rode a bike.
Yeah. I guess, am I wrong for being so upset about this?
No. No, I had the very same thing happen when I was supposed to check some partials. It was like the whole purpose of the appointment.
It is the essence
again,
of the appointment.
Yeah. Again, didn't bring them.
Oh,
All right. Well, my week pet peeve. You get a patient who comes in and they are talking about how painful something has been. It's been awful. In fact, I walk into the room and he tells me, I didn't know there were so many products in the dental aisle because I had to go to CVS or wherever to look for things to manage pain. By the way, he could have called the office. We've been there every day for the last 3 weeks. Okay. So much pain. My hygienist goes through the arduous task of taking some challenging radiographs to figure out what may or may not be going on. Only for me to come in, for him to tell me how hard he looked in the aisle for things that would manage his pain. I provide a pathway to alleviate the pain. He goes, I mean, it's happened like 3 times in the last 20 years. I mean, I probably will just ride it out. And I'm like, thank you for wasting the last 45 minutes of my time, my dental hygienist time, which by the way, none of us can afford that.
right.
And yeah.
Isn't there time
what are
worth
we
more than
doing
yours
here?
now?
What are we actually doing here? I just looked at him. I was like, okay, well, I guess good luck. Godspeed. See you later.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
I will charge you for a limited, by the way, when you come back. I will.
Since you all are bitching,
yeah,
I'm going to end with something that makes me feel good every single time.
Is the show over already?
No,
Yeah.
no, but I'm gonna end with this before Jennifer goes to the news, and then we bring our guest up because
the news is going to be depressing. So
yeah, well, I'm sure it is. But I'm gonna bring up something uplifting, and I think it's a great lesson for young docs and for docs out there who are kind of struggling because sometimes we just have to like turn that dollar or whatever. But I had a case a couple weeks ago and I went to put the crown on and I put it on, and when I put it on, it shifted and the margin on the lingual was just wide open, right? I mean, 0.5 millimeter, but to me, that's wide open, right? So I put it on, I'm looking at it, and in my mind, I'm just going, shit. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And so, I told the patient, I was like, look, I put this crown on. I know you've been here for a while. I'm not happy with it. Something happened when I went to put it on. It shifted. The cement set. I'm going to adjust the bite and we're done for today, but I'm going to fix it. So the patient's like visibly a little bit frustrated with me, but I'm not going to let that walk out of the office and that be it. So the patient came back today, crown that's 2 weeks old. We cut it off. We redid it. We made it right. And immediately the patient goes, oh my God, that feels so much better. And the thing is like, as soon as he bit down the previous time, I had to adjust it for the bite to be right. Today he bit down and it was perfect. And my point is that that's what wins people over when you do the right thing and you turn around and you just admit your faults, cut it off, redo it, move on. It sucked. It cost me time. It cost me money. But you know what? It made me feel really damn good about myself. And you looking at me like that is making me feel like freaking Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live.
Doggone it. People like you, Chad.
Yeah. You're smart enough.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm
saying. You know what? That's how I'm going to end this bitching.
What it does, Chad, is it wins over the right people.
Yeah.
There are people that you do that for that you're doing the right thing and they run you over with a bus.
Yeah, you know what?
You win right. And those are the patients you want to keep. You want to say, look, you're amazing. Please don't go anywhere.
This was a patient that I honestly thought might be
run you over with
the other way. Yeah. And today when we redid it and he could see how much happier I was with the product, And, immediately it felt better to him. There was just like ease of tension that just, it kind of made me feel good. And I just thought I'd throw that in there rather than bitching about the 3 people that showed up today for night guard checks without their night guards, or the people that showed up for retainer checks without their retainers. Or, real quick story. I had my first Inspire patient today, a guy that came in that had the Inspire procedure.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. So anyhow, he comes in, says he thinks it's going to be the greatest thing that he's ever done. But when they had it cranked up too high, that when it would get going, his teeth were chattering.
Chad froze.
Am I
Oh
still
no,
frozen?
I can hear him fine.
Oh,
you can?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can.
But when it cranked up, his teeth started chattering because of the way. Oh my
gosh, we're gonna have to start making guards for Inspire patients.
So no, but now they're kind of titrating him and dialing it back. It's a really cool procedure. I was like, I really want to follow you, because I don't know if you all have looked into that. I know Jeff has, but it's a very not necessarily technique sensitive, but a very patient.
Oh no, it is intricate. It is
it's intricate, but it's a very patient selective procedure. My ENT says the majority of his patients don't qualify for it.
Yeah. A lot of them don't. And the dissection, not just to find the hypoglossal nerve, they have to find the correct branches of the hypoglossal nerve. And it really is.
That has to be pretty high risk.
Yeah.
Or it not working, or you'd screw it up.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is this guy did say that every time his wife turns on the microwave, he pisses himself and forgets who he is for about 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, that line is so old.
Yeah.
It's about as old as Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we got a great guest tonight. I know we've got to get to the news, but our guest forgot to pay his electric bill this month and his electricity's out. So apparently he had to go over to his grandparents' house. Because his parents wouldn't let him in through the front door. He had ruined his welcome there because he never pays his electricity bill. But anyways, we'll let him tell that story later. So, JB, you got some news?
Always. I got to tell you, the Grimace story is going wild. But what people thought Grimace was, I frankly didn't see that coming. If you're really curious about what average America thinks Grimace was, please check out the comment section of our Instagram. Where we talked about the story. There's a consistent theme that came up, and no, it was not grape jelly. All right, let's get into the news. So this is for all my married women out there who, might be having some questions about the legitimacy of their marriage. Well, I want to bring a story to light tonight. There is a dentist and a beautician who are now fighting over the deceased wealth of a bigamist. That's right. In the UK, there was a gentleman who was married to not one, but 2 women. He'd married them both in Vegas, 5 years apart from one another. Didn't really technically divorce the dentist before he married the beautician, or vice versa. But one went marriage first, the second one got married second. The marriage was discovered after his parting. Now they're trying to fight over the wealth that was left behind. $2.4 million US is not a bad amount of money to be trying to get your hands on. So these 2 poor ladies are going to have to figure out what this affair is going to look like. But of course, for dentists in the know, because a dentist is involved, we're always going to be here for you to let you know what's happening in the world of dentistry. It is quite dramatic on most days. I think this is pretty relevant for this evening's conversation. It was just yesterday that we learned of a pretty significant funding notification that went out to Trust AI. $6 million seed fund went to develop an AI assistant specifically to dentistry. Now, this niche market that's happening is really a very large AI market. We're very familiar with smaller groups like Pearl, Overjet, things that are very specific for dentistry and were designed very specifically for dentistry. But the large learning models are also very interested in healthcare and dentistry specific. So this funding is going into those large learning models to come into dentistry and do a couple different things. Definitely on the administrative side to handle some of the challenges that are happening on that end. I think they see how many software services and other things we're all having to deploy on a daily basis. So I think they're trying to focus their efforts on that. And then the third piece is an assistant called Isaac, who will be a treatment planning and diagnostician support service for clinicians. So as the model learns and gains information through both the questioning that's happening from the clinician as well as what it's learning in those large models, then they'll be able to support clinicians through the diagnostic process. Now, at the end of the day, they still have to do the dentistry. So if they come up with an amazing treatment plan, but the dentist is ill-equipped to perform it, that will be discussed at a later date. Maybe that's when old Elon's robot will come in to perform the dentistry. So here we go. Things are buckling up. It was funny. I had 2 patients yesterday alone say, I guess you don't have to worry about being displaced by AI. I think this story might shed some new light on that. All right. Another interesting story. Guys, I really want to get behind this. Anytime a dentist wants to run for office for a US or local seat, I'm all in. Don't care the party affiliation. As my good friend Gary Oyster, who, if you have been in dental politics for even a fraction of a second, you know Dr. Oyster. He has been one of the most vocal dentists in our community. He spends so much of his own money towards the D party. No, that's not Democrat. That's dentist. He supports the dentist party. So he'll support libertarians, independents, Democrats, and Republicans as long as they support the profession of dentistry. We have a gentleman who is now running out of Ohio for a congressional seat. He is challenging an incumbent Democrat, U.S. Representative Greg Landsman. This is for Ohio's 1st district. His name is Dr. Stephen Airbeck. He is a Republican, and he is going to run for a U.S. congressional seat. I'm pumped. I want to know this guy. I want to hear his story. I want to hear his platform. He is specifically focused on public safety and support of law enforcement. So he's a 4th-generation dentist. So I think that's something to be pretty proud of as well. So maybe we can get him on the show. Love to hear a little bit more about his campaign. A dentist and a wife were both jailed for stealing designer goods at an airport. Now, look, I'm sure we've all had our vices and our moments where we were lured into doing something we shouldn't have. But honestly, people, they did it in Singapore. Now, I can't think of a worse country to commit such a crime. Singapore has some of the most strictest laws. If you drop chewing gum on the street, you will go to jail. This couple made the unfortunate decision to steal a couple of things from Louis Vuitton and another store, ultimately got busted, and they did spend time in the Singapore jail. They are free, I believe, or should be soon because their sentences were fairly short, heading back to the U.S., but we do have a dentist who was caught in this little heist in Singapore. All right, the last one, and I'm sorry for the order of operations because usually I really do try to end at least on a funny note or a high note, but I got to be honest. I read this story in a couple different sources of news locations that I follow, and the theme was very consistent. I think we've all been pretty familiar that medical providers have been struggling for a while, and it really came to light in 2020. And, you know, what has happened since 2020 and the mental health and well-being of dentists, but medical professionals as a general rule has certainly been declining. Those of us who have chosen to stay in the field are getting beat up pretty good and paid a whole lot less. And those who are smart enough have left. And so a recent article that came out of the Journal of Psychiatric Research found that in the past year alone, more than 3% of healthcare workers have attempted suicide, and that's combined with 20% who have contemplated it. So we have to do something. This has to be a wake-up call. It has to be a wake-up call to everybody. It can't just be, oh, these individuals need more counseling. They need more psychiatric support. No, because there's a reason why they feel this way. There's a compression, a serious compression happening from insurance companies, from organized dentistry, from patients, consumer expectations, from the cost of doing dentistry, from the cost of hiring staff, from needing to be the CEO, CFO, CMO, CIO, CTO, and Chief Happiness Officer of your office on every single day. And for many of us who really went into a profession to help, are repeatedly told we're not doing enough. It's a big burden to bear. Dentistry is incredibly responsible to serve their people and to go out and find avenues that will make this profession more enjoyable for all, including the families who are related to these individuals who are struggling. If we don't, the profession will look very different in a few years. And I'm afraid we're going to lose a lot of people. I'm afraid it will be to suicide, but more importantly, good people are going to leave. They want more than that for themselves. They want more than that for their family. And with that, that's the news.
So I have a question. Is the Singapore jail called the Singapore Sling?
Oh, jeez.
I was just curious.
Maybe.
I was wondering if they like the jail as much as the cocktail. Boy,
Do you know that if you bring drugs
in the Singapore Sling?
I can't remember, but we actually went to
cherry liqueur. It's bitters. It's
chewing gum.
It's a bunch of shit.
Perfect. Well described.
It's like a Tom Collins, you know? I mean,
you know,
if
you bring more than, I forgot what coin it is, but they have a measure, one of their coins, that if you bring drugs into the country and it weighs more than this particular coin, that it's actually an automatic death sentence. Like,
tell me how you know.
That is, well, I mean, I went to Singapore. Hey, I'm still here, right?
Yeah, you clearly were smuggling less than the size of that coin.
Hey, we have
they're strict. You don't mess with Singapore.
I know.
Man. Yeah,
that's why I'm saying, like, if you're gonna steal, like, that's not the place.
And that last piece you did truly sounded like a great editorial. It was just nicely done. It was a beautiful editorial.
It's definitely on my heart. I think more and more that, you know, this is a great profession, but we're losing really good people.
We have a great dentist that's a big advocate for suicide awareness. Maybe we need to get him on the show.
Yeah.
So. And I definitely think we need a whole show dedicated to that. And it's not just dentistry, it's medicine as well. Yeah. My son just came off of a 24-hour shift at the hospital, which really serves no one.
Nope.
After a certain point, you don't learn well anymore. After a certain point, you can't provide well anymore. And then they put him on the road at, 3:45 a.m. when his shift finished. Okay, go home and get on the road with all the drunks now. And by the way, you're the equivalent of somebody who's drunk because of how tired you are now.
Right.
And somehow as healthcare providers, we think that's okay. And it may be things like that contribute, but that's a whole other story, whole other show. But we have a great guest, Mango, supporting us tonight and sponsoring the show. We're really excited to have him. So Chad, you want to introduce our guest?
Yeah. So first off, I'd like to, as Jeff just mentioned, I'd like to thank Mango, Richard May and Kevin Tallman and the team at Mango have always been great supporters of our platform here. And they brought us this wonderful guest, Dr. Greg Wu. Dr. Wu received his DMD from Tufts University School of Dental Medicine, and then he did an AEGD all the way across the country at UCLA, where he did advanced training in implants, veneers, and full mouth reconstructions. He's lectured at the Yankee, Texas Dental Conference, Ontario Dental Association. Has been lecturing since 2008. Completed Henry Schein's Dental Business Institute and was featured in June of 2019 in Dental Town magazine on Own the Business Side of Dentistry. He is the clinical director of on-site dental care, providing mobile dentistry to the assisted living communities across New England, which I definitely want to learn about. And he owns Emerson Dental, which is a multi-specialty practice in 2 locations, Westford and Bedford, Massachusetts. His practice has a strong focus on the patient experience and has hundreds of 5-star Google reviews. He has embraced digital technology, having both the Sirona CBCT and CEREC Prime Scan, and consulted and integrated with Pearl AI, Bola AI, Mango, as well as Curve Dental Software. However, in 2022, he suffered a stroke that necessitated a reduction in his clinical care responsibilities. And so I also want to hear about that as well, and how he's gone over that. So, or how he's gotten over that. But without further ado, it's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Greg Wu from Massachusetts, who did not pay his electricity bill, but apparently he also served as an electrician in a former lifetime. So
well, thank you, Chad, for having me. And what a story to tell, right? It's all about overcoming adversity, right? And,
that's right.
To touch upon what JB was just talking about, our profession does need help. I've overcome some medical tragedies myself, and I really feel for those practitioners that aren't as blessed as I was, and that, I'm still around. I mean, I probably did more than I should that led to some of my medical setbacks, but it's given me some light on how I'm going to overcome it and shifting the way I practice dentistry. Because I was one of those guys that just go, go, go. What can I do? Faster, better, all of that. So thank you for having me, guys. And just before the show, you want to talk about overcoming adversity? I lost power. I literally called Chad and I'm like, hey, man, I know this is weird about to go live with you guys, but I have no internet, no power. I can pivot. And the best thing I can do is go to my parents' house. They live 10 minutes away. I call them. They have power. I can't see because it's pitch dark out here. But thank you guys for helping me make this work.
Well, hey,
thank you for going to all that effort.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what, dude, power's not a problem on this podcast because I lose it about 6 times during the show. We're just very thankful that we don't have it tonight. Tonight, there's no issues. So the last few weeks, it's kind of been curtailed a little bit, but trust me, we get it, man. There's nothing we can't get past. So thank you for being here. And since you didn't get to be here before the show, I'm going to do quick introductions. Over here to my left on the screen is Dr. Jennifer Bell from Holly Springs, North Carolina, and right below me is Dr. Jeff Horowitz from Myrtle Beach, or Conway. I apologize. Conway, South Carolina, home of the Chanticleers.
Coastal Carolina Chanticleers.
Chanticleers. Yeah. So, and you're from the Boston area, is that correct?
I'm from the Boston area. Typically for us out here, winter time's the bad time because summertime, who knows what happened? I'll find out. But I found AI's one weakness: no power.
That is so true. And in fact, that is a big weakness because it sucks more power. Like these big learning models are draining power like nobody's business.
Well, and you know how much cyber attacks have been out there, and people are worried about their servers getting hacked. And I'm a Curve software guy because that's all in the cloud. So I got scared by that. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to the cloud. 5 years ago, I said we're going to the cloud. But one of my IT guys said, if you ever get hacked, unplug the server. No power, no hacking.
So,
that's true.
So Greg, let's start. When did you graduate from Tufts?
2005. Okay,
So give us the story of your career from 2005 until your stroke, and then we're going to talk about that a little bit. So tell us kind of what's been going on and what kind of practice you built and all that stuff.
So 2005. First of all, I'll say I'm a Gen Xer, so I would say I'm the last generation. Yep. See, I see JB raising her hand. Yep. We're the last generation that grew up without technology, right?
Yeah.
So I was of the generation, we had the traditional x-rays, we quick dip, develop, fixer, and now we have digital x-rays. I was of the generation, and you guys will shake your heads and nod. We did traditional impressions, we did border molding, but now what do? Scan everything, right?
Yeah.
Digital scan. In our generation, that's what we've gone to. And then think about like, now the next generation is going to have Pearl and radiographic AI. So, I mean, in just 20 years since I graduated, look how much has changed. So when I graduated dental school, I did my AGD at UCLA. I love the West Coast. It was fun and all, but my parents, if I didn't live near my parents, and I wouldn't come back. So when I came back to Boston, I associated a couple different places. The place that I took over, I was actually associate. Dr. Maya was a prosthodontist. I worked for them for 3 years. All was good. And 3 years in, he went through some life difficulties. He was getting divorced, and he turned to me and just said, instead of, because originally when I associated with him, he said, hey, come in as a partner. He said to me one day, he said, don't come as a partner. And I was like, well, what did I do? Did I do something to piss him off? He's like, no. He's like, I'm done. You take over just buy the whole thing from me. And here I am.
I bet he used a few cuss words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, 3 years into it, I was like, okay, well, I got a choice. Either I buy it or I got to look for a new job, because I knew it wasn't big enough for me to just, be an associate for somebody else, because it wasn't that big of a practice. So, I buckled up and just said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I turned to my wife and I'm like, well, why not? So, that's where the journey started. From there, I grew the practice because I'm not a prosthodontist, even though I did a lot of pros work. I try to convert it into multi-specialty. And throughout that, the one thing I learned was, hey, as dentists, we get so little education about business. So I did take a lot of clinical CEs, but I soon realized that's not the number one thing that's going to make me successful. And I heard you guys talking as I came late to the party, but Chad, I heard you saying it's about the people. It's about our ability to connect with people. And I soon realized I got to learn that. I got to learn how to connect with people. I got to learn how to market. I got to learn all this business stuff. So I then went and I told my rep, I was like, I want to learn more of the business side. And he said, well, we have this Henry Schein Dental Business Institute. He said, why don't you take it and see if it's what you want? And I started going down that journey. And, I still took my clinical courses. And where am I at? I'm probably at like 2010, 2012 in my career. And then that's about 7 years into my career. And I said, I've been successful. The practice has been growing. I've integrated some different specialties. I've always wanted to know what it's like to open up a startup, like a scratch startup, because I've done one takeover. And so I did the genius thing, guys. I opened a scratch startup in November of 2019.
Oh, geez.
About 5 months before COVID.
Perfect.
No more explaining the stroke, Greg.
Yeah. So, and I said, I was like, this is going to be genius, guys. I'm pumping. We're going from I went from $1 million practice when I took over to a $3 million practice, integrated 4 different specialties, and we were rocking and rolling. And
why do we do this to ourselves?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I did the exact same thing.
You're talking,
We're all sitting here going, why do we do stupid stuff?
Because we're dentists. We like to torture ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, carry on.
No, and so I did this, and then I remember the day COVID happened. I'm like, oh crap. I just sunk about $1.6 million into this build out, and I have probably maybe 50 patients there. Because I mean, we were going, but it's, oh my God. And I was like, is the government going to help us? Do you trust the government? Probably not. And I mean, given that, and obviously you guys all know what happened during COVID. We got PPP. We were juggling. We all had little chat groups of like, what are you going to do for this? How are you going to handle this? I mean, really talk about overcoming adversity and adapting. That was my theory. Yeah. Hey, we got to make adaptations and just do the best we can. And you're right. It tremendous amount of stress. Well, March 2022, March 18th, 2022, I had a stroke. And you can argue, is it stress? Is it COVID? There's tons of people that will theorize. I remember waking up in the hospital, and I remember asking the doctor, what do you think that caused this? He's like, look, it can be a lot of things. He's like, Sometimes I have an 85-year-old man that smokes a pack of cigarettes every day and nothing. And sometimes a 14-year-old girl's done nothing wrong and gets cancer. He goes, and sometimes I got a 45-year-old dentist that's fairly healthy and has a stroke. You could blame it on COVID. You could blame it on the vaccine. He's like, it's up to you what you want to blame it on. But things like this happen. And so being a healthcare provider, I'm like, I get what you're saying. Because I said, I can live with that. I mean, it's hard to hear, but I had to live with it. So I said to him, like, we have patients in dentistry. We have patients that they brush their teeth every day. They're really good about their hygiene. They've done, everything you recommend, and they still get issues, cracked teeth. They've had issues with their bite, TMJ, caries. And then we have other patients that, I don't even know if they've seen a toothbrush and they dodge bullets. And I think we can all agree about that.
Yeah, and Greg, was it an ischemic stroke?
It was a hemorrhagic stroke. So
hemorrhagic stroke.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why some people will say it's it was my blood pressure when I went in there.
Yeah.
Through the roof. So it could be stress, and I would say, I could sit here and tell you the what ifs and what I should have done, but I can't change that. I can only move forward. And, I came to that realization. I had a great support of family and friends. And, I know this sounds odd to you all, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's made me the person I am today. It's actually made me to innovate. I've changed my role. I've taken on roles with these other companies. Curve Dental has been tremendous. They let me tell my story. Right before my stroke, I switched over to Curve in 2021. And why this story is with Curve is I was in the hospital and I could access my database and coach my doctors with certain cases. I know it sounds weird because they're going to say they should have just been like, don't worry about work. But I do truly love dentistry. I mean, I could easily say to you, hey, I'm just going to collect my disability and right off to the sunset. But I truly love dentistry and I still want to be part of it. I still have some issues. I have some sensory issues. My hand goes numb, so I can't practice full time. I actually practice very little, but I now have two very young doctors, two very young general dentists, and I enjoy mentoring and coaching them. And, I'm actually very grateful that I did learn the business side of dentistry because it's changed my role. I'm purely a admin person, and, I come in for consultations and coaching. And, I've been able to spread that story along, and Curve's been wonderful. They've invited me as a guest to go to different shows to tell my story. So for those of you who ever go to these conferences, my next one coming up is the Southwest Dental Conference in Dallas. And I'm looking forward. It's I think it's August 21st through 23rd. And if you're going to be there, please come see me at the Curve booth. I'm really excited to do so.
Well, why don't you come see me? Because I'm speaking there.
I would love to. We got to connect.
We will definitely
I expect a selfie.
Hey, Greg, one thing that I notice, and this is don't take this the wrong way, but I'm listening to you speak, and you can see how much you love dentistry as you speak about it. And it's really refreshing to see that and see what you've done to kind of pivot in those times of adversity, because dentistry and life and dentistry can throw us a curveball at any point in time. And obviously you were throwing a big curveball in 2021 or 2022. I'm sorry. And what do you feel was, at that point in time? I know this is maybe a little bit off topic, but what was your biggest fear when you woke up and you realized that you weren't in the office? How's that for a question?
Oh no, it's a great question. I remember turning to my dear friend who's my pediatric dentist in my office, and I said to him, pardon my French, but I was like, I'm effed. I'm not.
Yeah.
I was like, because I'm right-handed.
Not French, by the way.
Yeah, it's on my right side, and I was like, I can't move my arm. And I have videos. Actually, Curve Dental, they had a promotional video. I gave them the freedom to tell my story. And I share that video to a lot of people that have had these things. And I say, it doesn't mean your life is over. I felt like that at that moment. And again, like I said, the support I had, people are like, no, we'll figure this out. We'll figure this out. We're in it with you. My doctors, all of my doctors that are with me, they stayed with me. Unfortunately, I lost a couple staff members throughout that, whether it was because I had that or something else because of COVID. But to every day, I tell my docs, thank you for believing in me. Because I said to them, just give me time. Let me get back on my feet. I'm post-stroke 3 years, and I feel good. I feel good. And, am I ready to go back full-time clinic? No way. But thank you for asking me about that, because, looking back at it, I think about that quote by Charlie Chaplin. Life is a tragedy close up. However, life is a tragedy close up and a comedy in a long shot. Charlie Chaplin, right?
Did he say that in a silent movie?
Yeah, exactly.
No, so I've got a question for you though, Greg. So you kind of got into the situation where you became more of an administrative mentor, coach role in your practice out of necessity, right?
Yep.
So you took this bad situation, you took lemons, you said, I'm going to make lemonade. I want to be involved in my practice. I want to be involved in dentistry. And you made that work. What would you say to dentists who maybe didn't have that adverse situation or that kind of adversity or health impairment and wanted to take that step back in their practice to become the mentor, to become the business manager, to become the clinical director, if you will?
Right.
But there's this concern about, how do we produce enough? Can I really still take a salary and do that and then bring however many dentists I need to take on the place of what I used to be doing? What would your message be to someone who maybe wanted to take more of that role? Is how difficult is it to generate that kind of income where you can take a step back and still be able to take a fairly reasonable income yourself?
Well, let me first say, and I'm glad that you bring that up, that's actually why we have to all look at ourselves in the eyes and think about disability and disability insurance and that, because it's not all just that. It's not that every practice, if you don't have disability, you're going to have a drastically reduced income. You're right. So understand that. I think you guys mentioned this earlier, right before I was going to come on. The margins are thin in dentistry, and they're getting thinner. And so we have to look at ways to how are we going to cut those, or not cut our margins so much. Biggest expense, doctors. Let's be honest, they get a good chunk. So the other expense is people. And it's not that I don't value our staff, but we have to be more efficient. We have to run more efficiently. And then also insurance reimbursements. I know, JB, I've heard a bunch of other previous things on the news. And, that's always a big issue, because our insurance, they're not upping their reimbursements for us. So then really comes down to
your
economy.
State is.
Yeah. And then we have to go on economies of scale, right? You
Yeah.
have to get bigger. And then that's where the DSOs are kind of coming into play. Now, what AI has done and technology has done is given private practitioners like ourselves at least a leg up. Think about, I actually just integrated something new. I'm the guy who will always like to try new things. Okay. So I like Curve AI. Curve has their own AI. I think August 7th, they just talked about Flow. They have Flow AI. Pearl AI integrated about 4 years ago. I've integrated Bola AI 5 years ago. And then recently with Mango, I love Mango's AI. I actually 3 weeks ago to this day, I integrated Mango's receptionist, the AI receptionist. Now, if you're not afraid to fail, if you love to pioneer and explore, you can't be afraid of failure. Why I say that to you is the AI receptionists, I've had about a third of my patients that are meh. A third of my patients that think, oh, that's really cool. It's very cool to see it in action. And I did have a third of my patients because in the short span of 3 weeks, I hate that thing. No, I'm just going to be honest with you guys.
Yeah.
And kudos to Leif from Mango. He's been very good about the feedback I had. I'm like, hey, can we do this? Can we have a kill switch on the AI? Because I said there are some patients that really complain about it. Can I have, because some patients are like, I don't want to talk to the AI. Okay, no problem. I had Leif said, hey, if they want to not talk to the AI, I just want to leave a message. Okay, no problem. And the AI receptionist will just send it right through. So, sorry, I talk a lot and digress. What was
No, that was awesome.
But I went from one topic to another real quickly.
No, I was hoping you would move in that direction because one of my concerns and one of the things that I wanted to do at where I had to take a smaller step back from clinical dentistry was, how do I practice efficiently enough so that I can just take more of this administrative role, still pay a good, associate dentist to get it done and have the practice still be profitable. So I was kind of hoping you would pivot onto that, which you did, which is really that the team is our biggest expense, and utilizing services like Mango and that have AI integration, they can actually limit our costs in other areas so that we can be more efficient, with the people that we absolutely need.
Exactly. And it's not dentist versus AI or staff versus AI. It's dentist plus AI and staff
Absolutely.
with it.
I love that.
Yeah. And I'm a Curve user. Curve and Mango, I mean, it's like peanut butter and jelly. If you use Mango's AI, when a patient calls, you don't have to even write notes anymore. They automatically populate it into your software. I mean, that takes time. Everything. Seconds become minutes. Minutes become hours. So anything that will help you save time is going to also save you money. So, I know I kind of digress, but, that's what I was going to tell you about, making your margins a little bit beefier is through technology.
Well, and I think I do have a follow-up question, but just to piggyback on that, I think too, the AI brings such a level of continuity to the practice that as much as I love my team members, as much as I love our doctors, we're not the same every day. We deal with our own stuff going on in our own personal lives. We don't feel well. We are just tired, lazy, whatever the personality quirks or issues that might be going on. So one day you might get great notes on a comm log of a conversation that happened with the patient. So it's documented in the chart. And then the next day, for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. And you're like, why the inconsistency? Why today you performed at a high level, the next day you performed at a mid-level? And what AI can help support the staff member is that your performance can be consistent throughout, regardless of whatever may be going on. You're going to be able to get through those things without feeling like your work-life balance is going to get really squished with that. So I love that AI is doing that particular lift for practices. My question is the thing that I've struggled with, and I'm a heavy tech user as well in the practice, is that we've got all these tech things going on one side of the practice, right? You're paying your cloud-based subscriptions for all your data storage for your scanners. You're milling in your office. You're 3D printing. You're doing digital radiography, CBCT, blah, 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 all that stuff. They all have different vendors, tech support, different passwords, like the whole, and different monthly fees. And now AI is coming in, and we're just right now, I think this is where the investments that I was just talking about in the news is going to happen. But we're adding more and more software as a services, basically in the AI realm. It's Pearl, it's Mango, it's Curve, it's Bola, it's Toothy AI. It's a myriad of all these companies that are coming together. And so it's a monthly subscription there, a monthly subscription there, a monthly subscription there, vendor support there, vendor support. If you had a crystal ball, because you sit at the table with a lot of these companies, what does it look like in 5 years for private practitioners?
Greg just lost power at his parents' house.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I need to know the answer.
I know.
Wow.
And, the thing is,
tune in next time.
I thought he seemed very stoic about maybe I was starting to offend him. Like, sorry.
He was such a great
guy.
Too. But I'm gonna piggyback on some
Can
of
we
the things.
hypothesize?
Yeah, so paraphrase the question a little bit, because I was reading his
Yeah, no worries.
I was reading he was texting me and I was like freaking out. So, because I thought he was listening and then he was tuned out. So
no, I thought it was a great question. JB had asked basically.
So, because I can speak to some of the things that he was talking about. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I think my question is, we have spent for the last 10, 15 years all this time and money managing the myriad of companies that are in our practice, right? We pay cloud support, we pay vendor support, we have different passwords, logins for all these different companies. That in and of itself has been a huge learning curve. And you almost see teams dedicated within your office to manage each one of those, doing all the CERAC updates that have to happen every week, the maintenance, etc. Now AI is coming in, and forgive me, this is where I am in my journey. It's adding, not replacing yet for me. So all I'm doing every month is adding another subscription, another payment, another vendor, another password, another maintenance schedule, another updates, another tech support call, whatever. So what I'm trying to understand is there this pinnacle that happens in 5 years, 10 years, where we either start consolidating some of this down so that we're not just continuing to add and add and add and add? Or is that where we start to lose our reliance on team?
So I'm glad you asked that question, because I can speak to that somewhat. So what we're finding is that I have a feeling that, let's start here. And let's go clinical first. Look at what Align did with exocad.
Yeah.
Okay. And we were kind of like, why the hell is Align buying exocad? I mean, what is that going to have to do with things? And David Yang put up a great post yesterday. I don't know if you saw that, where David Yang spoke with one of the VPs at Align.
Yeah,
was talking about this and that and everything. And it was like, oh, great. What are you guys going to do to screw up exocad? We're not going to touch exocad. I love it. And that's what we're seeing happen. And so I do believe that, if this is even a word, we're going to start conglomeratizing these companies and these subscriptions. You know what I'm saying? I know it's not a word. I know it's not a word, but you know what I'm saying? So anyhow, like, for instance, I spoke with a company last week, and I don't want to mention names because I don't know if this is public knowledge, but I spoke with a company last week. They're a social media company. They're a website company. They're this, they're that. And what they're doing is they're offering this incredible review service. Okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like the review service that we use. And they said, well, we're actually reselling X and including it within our subscription. And
this
so
makes my head spin.
It makes your head spin, but I think we're going to see a lot more of it, because quite frankly, these companies know that everything, and I am the first person to tell you this, I absolutely hate subscriptions. And it seems like every month we went from 1 to 2 to 5 to 7 to 10 to 12 to 20. Yeah. And we've got all these subscriptions. But if we look back, it started to happen over the past several years. We used to have one subscription for, I think I can say this, Lighthouse. And then there became Weave, which took over a lot of the things that Lighthouse did and incorporated a lot of the aspects of Lighthouse and added a little bit more. And I think we're going to see these companies like Curve and Bola and Pearl and Mango and all of these companies that work together. My hope is that we start to see some collaboration and some synchrony, if we will, and maybe some consolidation of these subscriptions into one, because we're starting to see it in various avenues. And quite frankly, what I've found is that when you're talking to a technology company, i.e., if you're talking to Curve, you really need to dial into what they offer and who they work with. Because I do believe there's ways to consolidate, if I'm answering your question, some of those subscriptions into one. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that over the years. It's already happening. I think that some of us may be paying dual subscriptions and don't know that we have it through one company and not the other, if that makes sense as well. And I don't want to mention names because I don't want to become proprietary in nature, but I think there's going to be a lot of that as we head into the future. And I think we really need to dial into what we're really getting before we sign on to a subscription and purchase technology.
And I think on top of that, Chad, I think there is almost going to be a mandatory consolidation because intelligence, if you think about it, artificial intelligence is not something that you say, okay, we're just going to limit AI to our little particular area of reading X-rays. Artificial intelligence is vast. And so it's going to be able to take on the duties of other subscription service. As we become more and more reliant on AI, there's going to be this overflow where these companies are not going to have a choice but to consolidate. There's
overflow and overlap.
Yeah.
And I totally agree.
Yeah. So I think it's going to happen for us, JB, is my answer to that question. Is I think we're probably at the worst point right now of having multiple subscriptions and not fully understanding what each service is capable of. And for sure, I guarantee all of us have, redundancy and overlap in the subscriptions we're utilizing. So
with that being said, Jeff, I think also, and this is maybe a little bit dicey to say this, but I think there's also got to be some government regulation to these subscriptions. And I hate to say that almost, but I'm also a victim of it. For instance, I'll just throw this out there. I've got this Microsoft Xbox subscription that I get charged for every year. For the freaking life of me, I can't find my username. I can't find my password. I've called Microsoft to try and cancel it. It charges every single year. They have no record of me. And I think there's got to be some sort of government regulation because I can't stop this damn subscription from happening. And there are a lot of people out there that have all of these subscriptions that they don't even know what the hell they have. One of the nice things is on your phone. If you go to your general settings and you look at your subscriptions, you can find out what Apple has for your subscriptions, and it's very easy to cancel them. But I mean, there are so many things in life and in dentistry that we have subscriptions for. I mean, as simple as in our area, the big subscriptions right now are car washes. People can't figure out how to get out of them once they start them. I mean, holy crap. I mean, there's going to have to be some regulation because it's gotten out of hand. And so look at the services that they're providing. Mango is a great example of a company that is really blossoming in the services that they offer and what your subscription encompasses. And if we're members or we're partnered with Mango in our practices, look at what they offer before you start adding all these other services, because quite frankly, they might offer what you're looking for. You just may not know it. So it's a double-edged sword.
So this is really a great conversation in and of itself, and I'm sure we'll do plenty of other episodes with regard to that. I mean, I had so many great ideas tonight, just listening to what everybody was saying. JB, talking about the psychological burdens and of our profession and the medical profession. It really made me think. Social media, as great as it is, has, in a way had its burdens to the teenagers and the school age children that have had to, have felt like they have to live up to something all the time. And I'm really glad to see that some school boards now are requiring a mandatory shut off of cell phones, and hopefully that'll continue to be the trend. But it really made me think that we should do an episode on the good and the bad of social media and dentistry, because while there's so much great information out there, how many young dentists tune in and hear people that have, been out there for a while and have made every mistake, but what comes across on social media is how great I am, how many implant cases I sell, how many sleep cases I do, or whatever it is, how I've conquered dentistry. And then does that in turn make people feel like they're not good enough? So it just made me think we could do a whole episode on that as well. But let me wrap it up because we're running late right now. But first, I want to thank Mango Voice for sponsoring the show, for being a sponsor of Dentists in the Know, along with one of their great partners, Curve, another great company, Pearl, that has worked with us. All of them just great adjuncts to what we do in dentistry. I want to thank Dr. Wu for being, first of all, for working that hard to be on our show. Man, that is so appreciated. And that just goes to show you, what someone like that with real passion and the kind of perseverance that he showed after, what he went through with a stroke. A lot of people would have just taken the disability check, sold the practice off and said, I'm out. But he took something that he absolutely loved and somehow managed to make it better despite what he went through. So I really think tonight's show was really a story of passion and perseverance. And then the last message was one that I heard you mention, Chad, which is that really it's not just about the technology. It's not just about the team. It's how we marry those things. And so I feel like there were a lot of good messages in tonight's show. Guys, I love seeing you. We've run overtime, but just want to say a second thank you again to Dr. Wu, to Mango Voice, and to all of our other great partners out there. Be sure to catch us on podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and watch us on Insta, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere you can find us. Tell your friends about us. We love doing this. We love being with you. And with that, I will say good night from Dentist in the Know.
Good
Night,
night.
everybody.